Hello and welcome to episode 23 on DM's Guide to Tomb of Annihilation. On this episode, we have finally arrived at level 6, the final level of the Tomb of the Nine Gods. On today's episode, we're going to go over 71, Lair of the Night Hags. We'll then go over the Trial of the Triangle in 72, and on this episode, we'll finish with the Trial of the Square, Area 73. And guys, if you enjoyed this, you appreciate content like this, remember to like and subscribe. And if you're feeling really generous, there's a Patreon link in the description below. So this was going to be very interesting because this becomes the climax of the entire campaign. So your players have battled through 5 floors and they've finally got to the final floor. A lot of things happen here. So in this episode, I'm going to focus on this room, how your characters are introduced to it. These separate rooms to the side containing all the different puzzles which allow you to open this door to the south. In the next episode, I'm going to discuss the Night Hags in much more detail, how you'd use them in combat, and how you'd foreshadow them throughout your campaign. Another thing I mentioned with these Sewn sisters is they were recruited by Serac for their skill with soul bags to create the soulmonger. But the way it works in the campaign is once your characters clear this room, they'll then have to face these Sewn sisters. So I believe it's better off explaining the room first, and then I'll do much more detail in the next episode. So before we jump into it, I explain this room and these rooms next to it. A couple of things I read in the comment section was that people were getting a bit worried that the episodes were taking 10 minutes to 20 minutes. The main thing with this is the Tomb of Annihilation varies drastically in the content, and I want to make sure the content is suitable per episode. So this episode might be a longer one. You need to know quite a lot of information to actually run this room. And regarding this channel and other projects, I'm going to discuss a lot more about that at the end of the episode if you care to watch. So let's jump right in. I'm going to explain 71, the Lair of the Sewn Sisters. 71, Lair of the Sewn Sisters. Green smoke billows out from a bronze cauldron in the middle of this 20-foot high vaulted hull. Barely visible through the haze are 3 rocking chairs, several workbenches heaped with haberdashery, a spinning wheel, and an iron cage containing a prisoner. Galleries stand 10 feet above the floor to either side of the room. This room is filled with thick green gas, and the only way to prevent the gas from filling up this room is by covering this cauldron. Tarry greenish black brew fills this bronze cauldron, and if any of your creatures decide it's a good idea to drink it, they will be stunned for 1d10 minutes. And as they're stunned, they'll have the worst nightmares. If your player characters pick up the lead and put it top of the cauldron, this green smoke will abate after 1 minute. So one thing to watch out for is if you want to do an ambush for your players, this room it'll be lightly obscured as this green fog fills the room. So as your characters come down, they're going to be greeted by 3 unique characters. 3 tiny figures waddle towards you through the smoky haze. A straw doll with rusty pins sticking into its body, a faceless child modelled from clay, and a stuffed monkey with the lower body of a unicycle. The straw doll says, "You need to run away. The straw sisters will be back any moment now." So your characters are going to be introduced to these 3 characters, and each of these characters have their own personalities. So let's talk about the straw figure first. So the straw doll, straw bundle, usually speaks to the group, and Clay No Face can only speak if it molds its mouth into a blank face. And Ho, the monkey, coughs on its stuffing when it tries to talk. If your characters are friendly to these dolls, they'll give them various clues of what to expect next. So with the Sewn sisters, foreshadowing is very, very important. The main thing is your characters should be aware they're being stalked by something or someone, and you should fill your campaign with some terror. And if your characters just stumble upon these Sewn sisters with no context, it won't give them a surprise. They want the situation to build up, and it makes it much more intense. So foreshadowing is very key with this. Each doll is a tiny construct with AC of 10, 1 hit point, a walking speed of 10 feet, and they're immune to poisoned damage. And they can't do any attacks, and if the doll is destroyed, the child's soul within inside will become trapped in the soulmonger. And each of these hags created a doll as a cruel plaything by implanting a child's soul in these dolls. This should really pull at your player character's heartstrings a little bit. If your players decide to be friends with these dolls, they'll gain various attributes, which I'll explain in a moment. So given the chance, the dolls will share the following information. The Sewn sisters are 3 night hags, and the dolls will refuse to mention the hags by name. At least the hags hear their name being uttered. So as you're role-playing these dolls, they should be terrified of the Sewn sisters, considering that they've literally taken their souls out of their human bodies and stuck them in these childlike playthings. The dolls were made from the souls of children and want to be free of their captors. The hags are nursing some kind of creature that lurks on the other side of the skeleton gate, the big, great green door. But the dolls don't know what the creature is. And to learn more about their adventures, the hags have been torturing the looky-like in the cage. If your player characters befriend these dolls, they get a lot of very, very good clues to continue on the campaign. Let's say your players are not particularly interested in these dolls and they kill them outright. It might be worth mentioning these clues before you get to level 6, such as 5 skeleton keys are needed to unlock the skeleton gate. And each key looks like an animated skeleton with a skull that extends into a curved key-like shape. I've mentioned these skeleton keys in, I believe, episode 3, but there should be a skeleton that roams each floor, causing chaos and causing your players to end up in bad situations and traps. Ideally, your players would go through each floor and take and kill the suitable skeleton key to go down. If they've not done that, these dolls will explain to you that the skeleton keys wander the upper levels of the tomb. And this is the main clue you really need to look out for. Before the skeleton keys can be used, the skeleton keys' 5 keyholes must first be opened. The 5 adjoining rooms, areas 72 to 76, contain trails that can be overcome to open the 5 keyholes. So the purpose of these dolls is to explain to your players that they have to open this door. And it gives clues to these 5 rooms, each containing a trail that will allow you to open this door. So as I mentioned in previous episodes, you do have these skeleton keys. So in this level you have the 5 trials. So you have trial 1, which will unlock the keyhole so you can place the key from level 1, which is the triangle key. Trial 2 is the square, which you'll got the skeleton key at level 2. Then you have the pentagon for level 3, hexagon for level 4, and then finally for the final key in level 5, it will be the octagon. So you have 5 separate trials. Typically when you play this room, your characters won't have the ability to see into the ethereal plane. If they do have the ability to see into the ethereal plane, they'll see the 3 night hags in this room watching from the border of ethereal. So unless your characters can see the ethereal plane, they won't be in combat with them until they collect all the keys and they open all these keyholes. If your characters become friends with Straw Bundle, they can gain Strong Bundle's charm. While you have Straw Bundle in your possession, this charm allows you to cast Etherealness spell as an action, no component required. After 3 uses, the charm vanishes. This is really important because Straw Bundle allows you to actually meet the hags on the ethereal plane and fight them. However, the spell Ethereal is a 7th level spell and it can only allow 1 person through. You're in a situation where 1 player will have to fight 3 night hags, which would be quite dangerous. And if you become friends with Clay No Face, while you have Clay No Face in your possession, you don't need to eat, drink, or breathe, and this benefit lasts for 30 days while the doll is in your possession. Joho's charm, while you have Joho in your possession, it grants you the benefit of the Helm of Comprehending Languages, and this will last for 7 days. When my player characters came down here, they seen these dolls, and the first thing they did was befriend them, try to find as much information as possible, and they gain this benefit very easily. So as I mentioned before, if you do become friends with these dolls, you'll find out what's in this cage, the looky-likey. And as I have mentioned before, the Tomb of Annihilation is a rather dark campaign, and it's really good to talk with your players about their fears before you jump into it. And this is exactly why. So you'll see this cage. A heavy padlock secures the gate of this rusted cage, inside which a naked figure cowers under a blood-stained blanket. And the butler, Mr. Threadneedle, will have the key for this padlock, otherwise you can unlock it with a successful DC 15 dexterity check. And if you hit it enough, it will break. So the prisoner inside this cage is a clone of one of the player characters, and is instantly recognisable as such. So one of the good ways to foreshadow these night hags is that while your characters have been sleeping, they've either taken some blood or stolen a strand of hair. So when I did this with my game, my characters woke up and they made an investigation check. One of the characters realised that their nails were considerably shorter, and one of the characters was also missing some hair. So the main thing is when your characters see this, they notice that the clone is not a perfect copy. It's shorter, it's scrawnier. So the way I roleplayed this clone was that since it has no name and has got no memory of being created, and I didn't want to roleplay someone's character for them, I just made this clone not have the ability to speak. I also decided it was much fairer to have all the player characters be a clone rather than just one person, because I didn't want to bully one person. So when I got my other player characters to look at this cauldron, they realised that there's been clones of every single one of them. And once all the information has been obtained from the clone, the Night Hags have 8 all the remaining characters clones in this cauldron and has just got 1 remaining. In my experience, my player suit was very well. The light aspect of horror, it was scary, but I can see this going wrong. So if you do have a player that is scared or uncomfortable in situations like this, you might want to avoid this altogether. But the main purpose for this clone is that these hags have been spying on your player characters and they know everything about them. They know their weaknesses, what weapons they typically use, and they'll have tactics appropriate for this. But to make it scarier, I just had the hags make a clone of each player character. Once they had enough information, they put them in this cauldron, ate them, and did that with every single player character. And the one they find in this cage is the last one to be devoured. My players, when they discovered this, decided to cleanse these clones and they killed them right away just to make sure that they're out of their misery and they don't want to speak about it ever again. Tell me in the comment section below, how do you guys work out the clones that terrify your characters? Did anyone get truly disgusted? And was anyone really, really unhappy with you for doing this as a DM? So we've discussed this room, and again, I will discuss the Night Hags in the next episode, don't you worry. But now we're going to look up on these balconies, we're going to discuss these 5 trials. So when your characters are in possession, or when they have closed this cauldron, 5 wooden doors are set into the walls of the galleries, each carved with a geometric symbol. A triangle, a square, a pentagon, a hexagon, and an octagon. So with 72, it's the trial of the triangle, 73 is the trial of the square, 74 is the trial of the pentagon, 75 is the hexagon, and finally, but not least, 76 is the trial of the octagon. Let's jump in and see what happens when they go into 72, the trial of the triangle. As your characters walk into this small room, they see a 5-foot wide, floor-to-ceiling glass cylinder near the back wall of this room. It's filled with light, and the source of which is not apparent. Tiny triangular hole is cut through the glass 5 feet above the floor. Inside the cylinder, an iron lever is set into a metal plate on the floor. So to solve this puzzle, your characters have to pull this lever, and it will undo the keyhole for the triangle to allow you to put the triangular skeleton key in. The question is, how is your characters going to get inside the cylinder to pull the lever? The cylinder is normally impervious to damage and spells, and it can't be moved. The triangular hole in the glass is 1 inch wide, which means if a character is in gaseous form, can enter through the hole, and while an ethereal character can just pass through the glass. For instance, if you're using the charm with Straw Bundle, a character can also use Misty Step, Dimension Door, and similar magic to teleport inside. You can use an Unseen Servant if you magically summon a creature to do it for you. The main thing is the lever is too heavy to be moved with a Mage Hand spell, but if you use a higher level spell such as Telekinesis, you can pull the lever. If you have no way of doing this with magic, and you have 3 characters, you can get 3 characters to stand around this cylinder. So if your characters, they stand a triangle around this cylinder. As such, if they do a triangle like this, so 1 character's here, 1's here, and 1's here, this glass will become brittle. The glass will become brittle, and any hit will smash the glass, allowing you to access the lever, pull it, and that is you solved the first trial to unlock this door right here. What I found is, if your characters are having a very, very difficult time figuring this out, you can give them clues with an intelligence check. So let's say they spend 5-10 minutes and your players are getting very frustrated. What I'll do is get them to do an intelligence save, DC of 10, and then I'll give them a clue about the triangle. And you can say it in such a way such as, if they rolled high enough, you believe that a triangle, you have 3 characters, and working as a team is important. So you can give them little small subtle clues like this to fire them through it. And with 72, let me know in the comments below if you had any issues with it. So this is the easiest of the 5 trials, so it's quite straightforward. We're now going to jump to 73, Trial of the Square. Well, things get a bit more difficult, to say the least. 73, Trial of the Square. This room is filled with flying sheets of parchment, with writing on the pages visible as they flutter by. A metal plate bolted into the far wall is set with a ghostly lever. So there's a lever right here. There's no barrier, but it's ghostly. And you notice that these parchments are flying everywhere. Your players can catch these flying pages with a DC 10 dexterity check. And as they grab the pages, they will notice that it's from a random spell, from 1st level to 6th level. So you roll a d6 and then you can choose randomly a spell. If you roll a 1, you get a first level spell. If you roll a 6, you get a 6th level spell, etc, etc. Once your characters steal 3 pages, then all these pages will turn into a dust misfit and they will attack the players with special command words. To make the game fast and flow well, I definitely recommend have your 3 spells prepared, so it's very, very quick, so when your characters come in, you're not spending too much time doing randomized chants. You have it all prepared, and it makes it run a lot more smoothly. Your character will be attacked by a dust method, and it'll have 3 illusionary duplicates created by a mirror image spell. And this method is going to attack everyone in the room with these command words: Frost Spittle, Spindle Dash, and Bloatbug. And while he's in the room, he can do this as a bonus action. With this dust method, we're going to explain what it can do and how dangerous this encounter can be. So it has a very, very small amount of hit points, 17, lower armor class 12. It has its blinding breath ability, which means that it can do a 15-foot cone of blinding dust. Each creature must make a DC 10 dexterity saving throw or be blinded for 1 minute. And it also has its claw attack, which is plus 4 to hit, and it does 4 points of slashing damage. And when you finally kill one of these dust methods, they're going to explode with a death burst, and a creature within 5 feet of it must succeed a DC 10 constitution save or be blinded again. As a monster, it's low level for this campaign, it's only challenge rating a half, but these command words are really, really important. So as a bonus action, I can say one of these 3, and it can't do the same one the next round. So if I was doing this, I would do the most dangerous one first. So I would say Spindle Dash for the bonus action first turn. The effect targets a random creature in the room. Everyone rolls a d20. Whoever had the lowest roll takes 6d6 force damage. And potentially, you could kill your method in the first turn. It makes things a lot more interesting. So I do a bonus action here. It's also because it's such a low level, your player characters could potentially kill this in 1 turn. And this is why the game designers have put in the 3 illusionary duplicates, because I have a 1 in 4 chance of actually hitting the real thing. Next thing I'll do, we do Frog Spittle, and each creature in the room must succeed in a DC 10 constitution save or take 2d8 poison damage. And methods are immune to poison damage, so nothing to worry about there. And finally, you have Bloatbug. You target 1 creature within 30 feet that you can see, and it immediately increases its weight by 50%. So mechanically, it's not going to change your character a lot. However, if you do have a charismatic character that's very vain and loves their appearance, you'll have a lot of fun role-playing this. When the dust method dies, it will collapse and transform into a stick of black chalk. So after this encounter, you have 3 new spells potentially if you grab them, and when the method dies, it becomes black chalk, and you still have this ghostly lever. The chalk is the clue for doing this trial. And remember, it is Trial of the Square, so it's really important that you foreshadow this and you emphasize square, triangle, and the appropriate shape for each of these trials, just so your players can understand. Makes it a lot easier for them. So your players went to the previous room, they've seen that the lever opens the keyhole. So when they see this phantom lever, they'll assume this will open the keyhole for the square. The lever in the north wall is carved from bone but is insubstantial, such as a player's character passes right through it. The lever appears solid to a creature on the ethereal plane. So again, if you cast etherealness using Straw Bundle, you can pull this lever as normal. The spell magic has no effect on the lever, and it remains insubstantial under the area of an anti-magic field. And the way to make this substantial again is that any creature who uses this chalk can draw a square around this lever. The lever becomes solid and they can pull it down. So let's say your characters don't have this chalk. What I'll allow is if a character has drawing supplies, they can draw a square on the wall. And I'd even say that if they had blood or any liquid that leaves a mark, they can draw on the wall there, a square. This is kind of out of the box thinking. My players found this out very, very quickly, much quicker than I would. Again, as I said previously, if your players are having a lot of trouble with this, just remember, you give them some clues after you do an intelligence save. And again, comment section below, let me know how you guys got on with this puzzle room. Because this, I believe, would either be very easy to do or very, very hard. So guys, that's the end of this episode, and the next time we're going to go over 74, Trial of the Pentagon, 75, the Trial of the Hexagon, and we'll finish with the final trial, 76, the Trial of the Octagon. Thank you very much for watching. Again guys, if you did enjoy this content, remember to like and subscribe, and if you're feeling generous, there's a Patreon link in the description below. I hope we see you the next time. Ciao!